Morning, Coach Reslow here, ResV Systems. Wanted to talk today about post-opping a tournament or a match. So, as a tournament unfolds and things happen, especially on the coaching end, you're sort of looking around and you're trying to figure out, um, where you can make things work well. And you're also trying to identify problems and then quickly solve them so that you can win matches. Like in our situation, in day one, we lost three 5 set matches. We'd win one set or we'd play well in a second set, but lose. And then, in the third set, which is the 15 in the club level, we'd always find a way to sort of not get it done. And you can look at all the options and look at all the reasons and all the you know complaints perhaps of why this happened. And then in day two, by the way, we played pretty well. We actually had a very good day two. Just again found ourselves in a 3 set match and couldn't finish. And trying to post op and decide what caused this to occur, because I think in general, looking at the squad I had versus the teams we played, like we were comparable with everybody, and sometimes I thought we were the better team, but yet we made more errors or made more things happen, and to cause the wrong effect to occur, and you sort of have to. I just think it matters all the time when the tournament's over or the match is over, especially if you didn't get the result you're looking for. You have to sit down and diagnose not only the players' roles and what occurred, but also your role as a coach. So for me, looking at that tournament, you know, I felt right away after day one that I didn't have a good tournament. There just was a lot of things that occurred that didn't really, like, I didn't feel energized in terms of trying to figure out what was going on. And that's not even the right way to describe it. It was more of surprise. Like, wow, I can't believe that we're having issues with this. I can't believe that we're not executing here, and almost a shock and paralysis of, oh, really? Like we're gonna struggle with this today when we haven't struggled with that all club season. And sometimes you just have a bad day, right? Looking at that tournament, especially the way we played in day two, you could notch up day one to just a really bad day. Like we couldn't get out of our own way. Ball did not bounce our way. There was things that occurred. That's like, wow, really? That's where we're at right now. But as a coach, when those things happen, I need to be better in terms of not just surprise and shock, but shaking that feeling off and really working to try to correct the problem with the players that it's happening to. There was definitely some times where I was just like, man, I can't believe this is going down like this, when the next mentality should have been, hey, all right, this is where we're at now. This is just it. So how do we get ourselves out of it? Certainly felt I did a better job with that in day two, but even in day two, there were some emotions that crept in that got me more frustrated and fired up than calm and collective and still strategically thinking through the match. So, if I had to give myself a grade in that tournament, probably a C. Like I just didn't have what I needed to have, or what I've had in tournaments past, where it's like, yep, all right, this is what's happening. Here's how we counter this. This is what's happening. This is the answer, or this is something that we can talk to our players and have them work through. You know, Sometimes I can be quite good as a coach, but sometimes, like this weekend, I didn't have it, and it's okay, but you have to sort of sit down and think about it. You can't just dismiss it. And for days like that, when I don't have it, when things don't go well, and I don't feel like I rose to the occasion to help my players to achieve what they're looking to do or what the team is looking to do, Like, it beats me up for a couple days. Like, I have to sit and really just go, man, what was I thinking there? What was I trying to do there? You know, I know in day two we had a couple calls that I just thought were absolutely ridiculous, and my gut way to handle that is to let the official know you can't do that to us. You know, if you're going to call it that way, you got to call it the other way as well. And did I sit on that too long? Right? Like, I was pretty upset because the one call was absolutely ridiculous, and I was, I'd had that experience before where a call was made that was absolutely ridiculous to my player, and then the other team's players would do the same thing and no call. And that's when you get bent out of shape because, hey, if you're going to call that, it's fine because bad calls happen. They happen all the time. It's part of the game, it's part of what you do. But, at the same time, if if the ref doesn't know that you're upset, like, that call might continue and he or she might believe that it's okay for that call to be made on your player and not the others, and that you can't let that happen. And I was talking with one of my assistant coaches or one of the other coaches that I'm very good friends with, and I explained it because almost I had to hear it. I mean, I know he's heard it before because I talk about stuff all the time, but I had to hear myself say it again. You have to stick up for your players there. You have to let them know that that's not acceptable. But at the same time, as you create that emotional factor, how does your team react when I did that? Like, I felt like, the match started to slip away at that particular moment, right? Like, challenging what I think is a terrible call. And, I'm not trying to bust the referee's chops personally, but he's got to know he can't do that. Can't do that to us. And then, of course, they do it a bunch of times, the opposing team. And now it's like, hey, wait a minute, you just called that on us at a very key moment. And now we're not going to get the same. We're not going to get the same feel again. So I'm bringing emotion to the table because I can't believe that we're gonna we're gonna let some of this stuff go and then not call it later. And in the meantime, how is that affecting your team? How is that affecting the guys on the floor? How is that affecting the guys watching the match? And the more I think about it, I don't know if it helped. I don't think it did. I think it created an emotional charge of we're getting the raw end of the deal here instead of competing and battling and signing out. Um, especially when you have two teams that are about the same level of play, which I felt we belonged. We were the 4 seed, they were the 1 seed. Trying to upset the 1 seed, you really do need to play pretty clean volleyball. We made some errors at the end that just, we beat them in set one, had them in set two, and just let it go a little bit. Again, a couple of really tough calls didn't go our way. And then in set three, just, I mean, everything the opponent did was gold and we just couldn't get out of it. There was a couple, I mean, I think we started with, there was three aces in there. Two of them clipped the tape and just were out of reach of our players diving on the floor to pick them up. And then one was just a real nice serve. So you're down three or four before you can really get your feet. And, if you got even teams, race to 15, down four. It's really, really tough. And I think we sort of, towards the end, again, that sort of paralysis of shock of, geez, I can't believe this just happened. And that's part of the show, right? That's part of what you're training to try to avoid, which is how do you deal with things when things get really, really tough. As a coach, you only have so many moves that you can do. And, I was trying to, there's probably a move I should have made 5 points earlier. And I held off too long and definitely want that one back. And then certainly the emotional outburst because I felt like we weren't getting a fair deal, and then, that you have that problem as well. And then some of the moves I made, we were in a really really tough pool, so I I was trying to win those matches when I probably could have just let one of them go and use some of our guys that are on the bench to play more. But at the same time, when I was thinking about the pieces that I had, I was like, oh well, this guy is actually playing very very well. He's usually somebody that I'll make a sub for, but he's having a really good match. Like, I can't do that. Where else can I do this? Where can I get an advantage? Um, so yeah, but I think the point of this video is the idea that you have to have a post op and you have to be honest about what happened in the match, what your role was as a coach in the match, and how, how did you deal with things, and was it positive? Did it create a positive outcome? One of the things that I like to do in a lot of ways as a coach is I like to train my players to be, really smart volleyball players, have all the skill sets they need to do whatever the play requires, and then also serve a certain way, right? Like, I have three guys that jump topspin, that bring some heat and do some nice things, and I usually just let those guys go with the idea that, hey, we're kind of doing yellow, green, red here. Our yellow is our 65% power, green is 100%, red is 50, and in a good spot and in. But then also I'll help direct our float servers where I want it, so we can slow their middles down, or we can cause a situation to occur that's in our favor. And I take a little bit of pride in that. I can definitely cause some discomfort by going, directing people where to serve. But at the same time, if I'm only focusing on that and I'm missing components that I can jump in and help, because, again, the whole idea about the ResV system, and it's not, I mean, you can name it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be my system. It could be any system. The whole idea is that you have a vision of what it's supposed to look like. And the moment it deviates from that, you need to call it out and correct it. So that can be 100 different things on every different play. Hey, this occurred, the middle jumps, but he's super late. That's not the vision. So, hey, got to tell that middle, hey, need to be there a little bit faster. Be in the air when the ball's in the setter's hands, or in the deep knee bend if you're on the 31 or whatever it's going to be. Or, maybe um, they set the right side. We send three blockers, and the libero's behind the block instead of off the right shoulder, or, however you design your defensive schematic. Again, it doesn't have to be my way. It can be any way you want, but whatever your vision is, if you see it off, you have to identify. And I wonder, the more I think about the tournament, did I identify enough and provide enough feedback so that my players could meet the challenge of really good teams? We just played all the good teams in the tournament, so it was, we didn't get the results we wanted on most of them. And if I'm just thinking about serving, okay, hey, we got to serve here to put them in an uncomfortable spot, and then I forget, or just let certain things go because I'm worried about other things. It's tough. It's tough being a coach. It's tough. It's tough doing it the right way. It's tough. And that's the other part of it too. Now that I'm thinking about it, right? You have your vision. You have your, if it doesn't meet the vision, identifying those things and sort of correcting them right away, or at least giving feedback so that the player can make adjustments to get the vision correct. Then there's also the emotions of the players. Like, I talked a little bit about how, I got upset about calls, and I started, really injecting my emotion into the situation, which is not something I typically do. Like, you'll see coaches on many different benches really, yelling, energy, really celebrating hard, getting really upset when things don't go their way. I don't like playing that emotional roller coaster game, because I know myself personally, and then I also know the team that I want to have. Like, you have highs and lows, and the higher the high, that means the lower that low is going to be. And can you get out of the low once you get there? It's very challenging. So, the even keel, ride the wave. We're not too high, we're not too low, we're right in the middle. We'll celebrate once we win the match. That type of thing. Like, that's where I want to be. And here I am on a call or two that's really, like I said, I thought was absurd. Now I'm getting upset and I'm injecting emotion into the situation. And that emotion feeds into your players, who are now going, geez, Rez is really losing it. And I don't think I was losing it, but I was, was definitely being demonstrative about how I felt about where this could go if we don't get, the treatment by the referees that I felt was correct. Not looking for favoritism, but I'm looking for it to be even. That's all I want. So, my emotion is radiating towards the players, and how are they reacting to that? Are we playing our best volleyball when I'm losing my mind? Absolutely not. Now they're like, now there's like this feeling of strangeness and weirdness because coach is upset, and there might be that fight instinct or flight instinct depending on what the player is feeling at the time. But as a coach, that's something you're monitoring as well, the emotional situation of each player. A kid is bumped up, really fired up because a huge block and he's jumping around and doing whatever. Like, you have to get that kid immediately. Hey, we're good. Relax. You did a great job. Awesome stuff. Good Selly. Now we're going to the next thing. Like, you got to come back down to earth and be ready to make the next move. Right. At the same time, you see a kid who hits a ball out of bounds by like 30 feet in a big moment, and that head drops and the shoulders sloop. And now the body language is telling you that kid is almost defeated. You have to be able to grab him. Say, hey, it's all right. Next play, you're good. These mistakes happen all the time. It's part of the game. We need you for the next play. And then he can take a breath. And if it's really bad, you sub him out, put another guy in for a second or two, and then maybe he goes back in once he's reset himself. I mean, I tried to do that a couple of times where, the set's probably out of hand. Probably don't need to have the guys that we're leaning on heavily take a bunch of lumps there. Hey, get them out of the game. Have them take a couple big breaths. Say, hey, need you for the next set. Reset yourself. Just, we're getting you out of that, you know, in that frustration mode and that critical thinking mode, and letting your brain relax for a second, letting you breathe. And then hopefully we can get you back in the game and get you going. But, you know, when you're emotional as a coach, sometimes you miss those things. And when you miss those things, it leads to not just one error happening, but five errors happening. And then five errors happening in a big match with two very good teams. Five errors is enough to lose. I mean, you get past 5 points in a good match, where at the end you're done. So yeah, I mean, I just figured I would make a video about my post op about this tournament. My feelings on where I was and what I was trying to do. I mean, everything's always in the idea of trying to get us to achieve our goals. But did I do a good job? Sometimes I do a pretty good job. Sometimes I do a mediocre job. And a lot of times the mediocre job is because I'm too emotional. I mean, that's just who I am. The more emotional I get, the less rational I think. And I have to learn. I've been doing this for almost, 12 years at the college level, 5 years at the high school level. So we're getting close to 20 years of coaching. And even I, have things to learn. Like, I'm always have things to learn. And even I have to sit down and go, geez, did I really provide what I needed to provide for our guys to win? For our guys to do it right, for our guys to play the game the right way, in the sense that, I mean, it's always a weird statement, play the game the right way. But the point is, you want to do it, you want to do things, nobly. You want to do things without, you know, without looking like jerks. You don't want to be that team that everyone hates. You want to be a team that's like, man, that team's just really good. And, win or lose, just, they're good guys. And that's sort of the team that I'm trying to create everywhere that I get a chance to coach. Uh, but you have to. It is crucial, and that's the crux of this whole video. It is crucial to sit down and think about what happened, and probably not right after. Right? Like, I certainly was thinking about it when I was having dinner with a friend or two after the tournament was over. Like, I was thinking about it a little bit, but that's not the time for crucial thinking, because you're still in the moment, kind of, right? Like, the tournament's over, we didn't win. We finished third, tied for third, and I'm still walking around the facility, grab dinner with a friend, talking still like, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened. But that sentence is not doesn't help anything. Really, all that statement is saying is that I didn't react well enough, and I should have, because I feel that I'm that good, and instead I didn't meet the challenge that I wanted. So that's okay. I mean, the ego takes a hit and you feel embarrassed a little bit and you're just like, oh, but that's how we learn. And, I like to think that I can do that. I can sit back and I do this all the time after every match that I lose, after every, I mean, that was some of the things that when I was in the college world that kids never understood. Like, I got the feel, you always get the sense in the high school, you hear it all the time, but in college you would hear it too. Ah, you know, coach is on to the next thing. No, coach is sitting there beating himself up because he knows that there's potential to do great things. And if we don't meet that potential, it's on me to figure that out. And if I don't feel like I've met the challenge, I gotta go back to the drawing board and I gotta think about it. I gotta diagnose it. I gotta start thinking how I'm gonna be the next time. And what's a way that I can control the next situation. Right. So for me, the biggest thing is the biggest thing that jumped. There's two things that jumped out at me. First one is my emotional response to an official who I like personally. He's a great dude, but he really didn't do us any help. Missed two calls that were just made two calls that were just or missed, I don't know. Made two calls certainly that I just didn't like. And I was really unhappy because you didn't call that on their team, just on us. So all right, fine. But when that happens again, how am I going to handle it? Like, I have to figure out a way to recognize that this moment has occurred again. And then, is there a better way I can describe it? And maybe I'll write that down. Maybe I'll write down a piece of paper. All right. So when the official, undoubtedly makes something makes a call or misses a call that I just don't agree with, how am I going to act? What can I do to make a more beneficial situation out of the whole thing? And for me, in this post-op, I think the thing that I want to do is still give my displeasure, but turn it instead of being at an 8, bring it at a 6, and then immediately turn to my team and start focusing on what we have to do to side out, what we have to do next, and really give uh, a speech of encouragement that hey, we're going to do this beyond what's happening. No matter what's going against us, we're going to fight, we're going to compete, and we have the ability to get the next point and start putting pressure on them again. So, 8 to a 6, and then focus on my team, maybe even call a timeout. Those timeouts are pretty valuable. I like to hold them for moments that I think are matter, but maybe that's a moment that matters. If I'm going to be that upset, I need to gain my composure and get my kids off the thought of what the referee's doing and focusing on the next play. So that's number one. And number two, like one of the things that happened, we were in set 3 against that number 1 seed, and I gave what I thought was a pretty impassioned speech about, hey, I gave the whole, we didn't get dressed up for nothing. We've worked so hard this whole weekend, and it's come down to this. And, all we have to do is stay together and execute and go out there and get the job done. And I thought I would get a big yeah. Like I thought the team would be marching forward, going, "All right, let's run through the wall." And instead, they were kind of just like, "Yeah, maybe." And yeah, maybe does not give you good confidence going into a set 3 or a set 5 in the college ranks or high school ranks. And I've been diagnosing that a lot, like thinking about it, like, "Oh, now what did I say that they didn't buy?" And the thing is, from my perspective as a coach, like I don't lie. Like I don't make stuff up. I give you exactly what I think at that moment. It's one of the things that I really stake my reputation on. I don't lie to anybody if I can help it. And if I find myself accidentally going into an untruthful situation, I stop it and say, I don't know why I said that. Like that's not what I believe. I really believe in honesty to the max. And so when I gave that speech, like I believed it. I was like, hey, we didn't get dressed up for nothing. This has been a tough tournament. And yeah, it hasn't gone our way, but now's our time. And we have all the tools to get it done. Let's go out there and finish this the right way, or whatever I said. It was something in that vein, but they weren't coming along for that ride. And I'm wondering if that was because of some of the other emotional outbursts. Like now they don't have the emotional desire to follow me because I've already been sort of losing my mind a little bit on the officials. I don't know, but I have to think that through because your speeches can matter a lot. Like they really can. You can motivate people to go the next level if they believe in what's happening. Or like I said, this tournament was a tough one for us. Day one was just a really bad day, and day two, you know, more we played better, but we'd already played a lot of volleyball on day one, and it hadn't gone well. So we're sort of physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, and we had just lost a set two that we probably should have won, and which would have taken us to the final. So there was this an exhaustion. Oh man, here we are, and we hadn't won a set three yet, and we wouldn't win this one either. So it's uh it's challenging, and I'm gonna be sitting and thinking about it. I'm gonna give myself one more day. I'm gonna do it. We did it. I did it all yesterday. Did it today, and then maybe Wednesday I'll think about it a little bit more, and then then I'm gonna really write out what the next practice needs to look like and what we're going to work on and what needs to be sort of addressed. I'm also going to watch the film tomorrow and I'm going to start seeing where we deviated from what the vision is, maybe diagnose it so that the kids can watch the video and see where I thought we went astray. All that information is to help them, going forward, understanding, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is where we deviated off. This is why it worked. This is why it didn't work. These are things that are in our control fix, and maybe we have a good shot at it. Some things are outside of our control. And it's always one thing that I find pretty interesting is a kid makes a play here, a kid makes a play there, and you'll get that look from a player going, hey, what am I supposed to do there? And sometimes it's nothing. It's nothing. Like there was a team there. They had an outside hitter that was premier, going to a big time program, and he's hitting the ball really above everybody else. And sometimes if the ball's in the system and we have two blockers and that kid's over top of us, it's just the way it is. We didn't do anything wrong. He just did better. He made a play. Kids can make plays. So, so anyway, this is my video on post-op, and certainly it's personal as I talking about the tournament that I had and wish we had done a little bit better. I think the number one thing that I did like from the whole tournament is that day one was real bad day and we struggled. Day two we played better, but throughout it all we kept fighting, like we kept competing, we kept trying. The one thing you can't do is in those types of situations is give up and quit, and we did not do that. And that tells me that certainly we wanted a better result, and certainly we had a real bad outing in some of these matches, but at the same time kids stayed positive as much as they could, and they worked really hard, and that's all you can ask for as a coach often. They're good kids, they work hard. I wish we had more opportunity to see them and train. I mean, that's one of the problems, the differences between club volleyball and college volleyball and high school volleyball is that you have more opportunity with the college level and certainly sometimes at the high school level to train more. But they're good kids. They work hard and they're very talented, and I'm really happy to be their coach. And we've won a lot of matches. We've had a lot of success. We've won a tournament. We won a regional. So we've done some cool things. We have a couple more tournaments coming up, and we'll get some more chances to compete against some of the best teams in the Northeast and even in the East Coast. So that'll be exciting. But this one didn't go as well as we hoped, and I think again this video is for really for coaches and for players. You have to sit and you have to post think about everything and try to figure out what you did, what could be done better, and how can you go forward and get better results and put your players in good positions to succeed. So thank you all for listening, and I'll see you all in the next video.